Gervonta Davis will be fighting Lamont Roach, and he reacts to criticism about the fight from somebody that says exactly what many boxing fans apparently are trying to sell, which is that they would rather see Gervonta Davis not fight at all than to fight Lamont Roach. We just don't want to see you in the ring, Gervonta. Please stay home. Please stay home. Let's talk about that in this video. Somebody jumped on Twitter and with a straight face, I suppose, or in apparent seriousness, wrote a note to Gervonta Davis in which he said, Gervonta, I would rather you not fight anybody at all than fight Lamont Roach. This part I'm going to paraphrase. Please stay home, Gervonta. Please stay home. I don't want to see a boxing match. I mean, December 14th on Saturday night in Houston, Texas. I mean, or on Amazon Prime. Why in the world would I want to watch boxing? I don't want to do that. Please, Gervonta, please don't fight. This is the argument that people are actually making about Gervonta Davis. I actually had to respond on Twitter to people making the same basic silly argument. But in this video, I'm going to make it to you. And if you don't get it, if you don't get what I'm about to say, please go watch a Dallas Cowboys game. Please get into hockey, get into the UFC, but please leave boxing alone because it ain't for you. Now, before I get into the details, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you're a longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel, thank you guys so much for your continued support. It means a lot. Thank you, Matty Yo, for all the support you've given in the past. Haven't seen you in a while, but salute to you, sir. Salute to Barbara D. Salute to everybody in the live streams that we do pretty much every day of the week. All right, so let's get into this. There's a lot of real fake people out here. And one way that you know when somebody's fake is if you listen to what they say and you listen to the natural consequences of their opinion. Not necessarily just the words that leave their mouth. But if you say, okay, this is what they're saying the situation is, and this is what they say the situation should be. If you think about what they're saying the situation should be, and you take that and extrapolate it to other circumstances, you'll see whether or not that rule should apply, especially if you take it to the extreme. So in this case, you have people who are literally saying Gervonta Davis is cherry picking Lamont Roach, and we don't want to see this fight, and we would rather him not fight at all than to see him fight Lamont Roach. Okay. Gervonta responds and says, thank you very much. Now, can you shut up and go on about your business? Perfect response. Here's my response to y'all. They keep doing this. Boxing is a sport. And unless somebody's fighting, it doesn't exist. You are a boxing fan. You should want to see boxing matches. I'm not saying that you should want to see all boxing matches or that all boxing matches are created equal. Obviously, they are not. However, when you have to choose with a fighter of Gervonta Davis's caliber about whether he fights at all or whether he fights somebody you want him to fight or somebody that he fights that you don't necessarily want him to see him fight. If you think about it, if he doesn't fight at all, there's no boxing. What good does it do to be a Gervonta Davis fan or even a Gervonta Davis hater if Gervonta Davis isn't actually in the ring fighting? Gervonta Davis has to stay active, right? Same people are all talking about how the PBC and boxing, specifically PBC and American black fighters, are so inactive and how they don't fight often enough. And they'll put out, the same people will put out a bunch of lists about how rarely they fight, how long these champions have not defended their belts. But when it comes up to Gervonta Davis, no, all that goes to the side. No, we don't want to see him fight at all. Now, please remember that Gervonta Davis tried to fight Vasily Lomachenko. Vasily Lomachenko said he wasn't interested. He then tried to fight Shakur, or they talked about fighting Shakur. Shakur said, now's not the time. It ain't happening. William Zepeda, who's one of the top-rated guys in the division, was in a negotiation to fight Shakur Stevenson, and then has a plan to fight Shakur Stevenson in February. That's not available. And then you look at Berinacek. When have you heard Berinacek, the WBO champion at 135, say anything about fighting Gervonta Davis? Anything? I haven't heard it. And there definitely wasn't some big push from Bob Arum to give Gervonta Davis that fight. So those guys aren't trying to fight. And the funny thing is, the people that are telling Gervonta not to fight acknowledge this. But then they go on and say something like, well, let's look at the top 10 guys in the WBA. And let's look at the rankings. And you tell me there's not more talent in those rankings than there is for the champion at 135? And my response to that is fake choice. Fake choice. You're not going to convince me for nothing that y'all are going to be happy, really, with Gervonta Davis fighting the number 9 guy by the WBA. Frank Martin is number 8. You want him to rematch Frank Martin after he just beat Frank Martin? Or do you want him to fight somebody from Colombia you never heard of? Right? You guys aren't giving him any credit for fighting anybody in that WBA, on that WBA list. It's not William Zepeda, Shakur Stevenson, or Vasily Lomachenko. You wouldn't give him credit for George Kambosos if he was in the rankings. But no, we'd rather you fight him than fight a reigning world champion. Despite the fact that Floyd Mayweather Jr. was a reigning champion at 130 pounds when he moved up to 135. Gervonta Davis himself had done that. Floyd Mayweather had done that. Oscar De La Hoya did that. Lomachenko moved up from 130 to 135. Juan Manuel Marquez moved up from 130 to 135. All of these guys did that, man. Shakur did it. Moved up from 130 to 135. Gervonta, I think I've already said him, he moved up from 130 to 135. So Gervonta Davis isn't supposed to fight anybody that moves up into his weight? Think about it. 130 and 135 historically is the same weight class. This is ridiculous for y'all to be saying that you would rather this man not fight at all. And the only reason you're saying you don't want him to fight him at all is because you can't think of anybody else for him to fight. And since you can't figure out for anybody else to fight him that actually wants to fight him and are trying to fight him after he was turned down by a bunch of other dudes, you then say, well, no, this isn't good enough at all. Gervonta Davis either has to fight this guy or I don't want to see him fight at all. I need for him to what? Retire? Isn't it bad enough that y'all were calling Gervonta a duck of Lomachenko when Lomachenko went up from 130 to 135? You guys were saying that Gervonta should follow Lomachenko from 130 to 135 fast. And if he doesn't do it, he's ducking. You guys praise Devin for moving from 135 to 140 and beating Regis. But Lamont Roach can't go from 130 to 135. Gervonta has to go from 135 to 140. Okay, yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, Gervonta is the one that has to move up in weight, not anybody else. Gervonta has to go from 135 to 140. And if nobody wants to fight him at 140, he can't fight anybody back at 135. He's got to go to 147. This is Gervonta we're talking about. Because if Gervonta doesn't do this, he'll never have any legacy. He'll never be Manny. Manny did it. It's ridiculous. This whole thing is ridiculous. December 14th, there's going to be a fight with Gervonta and Lamont Roach. Dude, watch it on television. And you can see what happened in the fight. If Gervonta wins, he wins. If Lamont wins, he wins. Hey, good night of boxing. And then after that fight is over, if Gervonta wins, then we can move on to who he's going to fight next. Him actually fighting isn't hurting anybody. It's not running boxing down because he's fighting Loma, because he's actually fighting instead of deciding to sit out and not fight. I mean, if you just keep looking at the arguments you guys are making, it's level upon level of ridiculousness. It's good that he's fighting Lamont Peterson. It's not good for boxing if Gervonta just sits home and doesn't do anything. You know what I'm saying? And it's not hurting you at all to see the fight. So what are you complaining about? It's not delaying a fight. It's not delaying the Lomachenko fight. It's not delaying the Shakur Stevenson fight. It's not delaying the Zabeta fight. It's not doing any of those things. So it's not delaying it. He's not fighting this guy instead of somebody that you want to see him fight because those guys didn't want to fight him. He's staying active. What's the problem? If you got a problem, the problem's you. That's where the problem is. The problem is with you. And the fact that you got a problem with this dude just doing his job. This is ridiculous. No, we don't want to see Muhammad Ali fight this weekend. Oh, no, I don't want to see him fight. Who says that? Besides, people that just don't like boxing. So why don't you just join the group of people that don't want to see boxing, shut up and make it easy on everybody. But you guys got to stop crying and complaining about every fight that gets made. Now, I can understand you complaining about a guy picking one guy over the other, but you can't complain when a guy just picks somebody, period, because the guys he wanted to fight wouldn't fight him. It's like you start with the answer, Gervonta's wrong, and then you just work towards it. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. Please let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.